Hello, welcome to The Real Deal. Now, the Notorious Mr. Bout is the story of arms dealer Victor Bout. It's not funny. Known as the Merchant of Death.
Funny name. It uses home movies, interviews and a first-person narrative to tell the story of a man whose life and crimes inspired a Hollywood movie and whose actual influence is still up for debate. Here's a clip.
If he had known failure earlier in life, he wouldn't have grown up convinced of his own perfect judgment.
Victor Bout is a real merchant of death.
As long as it's legal, or appears to be legal, what else do you need to worry about?
So firstly, we have to apologise for laughing at the name. We're so childish.
Yeah, no, I can't help it.
But it is Mr. Bout, and he
Yeah.
is Russian, not Canadian, just
Yes.
so you know. It is quite a serious story though, Joe.
Yeah.
Give us a brief synopsis of it.
Yeah, it's a shame he sounds like a children's TV character because it is a serious story. It's basically, anyone who's seen Lord of War, the 2005 Nick Cage film.
Really good film.
Yeah, it is. It's a great film. It's based on that loosely. The Nicolas Cage film is based loosely on the life of Victor Bout, who is an international arms dealer. Basically, the story charts his rise from sort of the fall of Soviet communism and the opportunities that are available there to his time in Africa and his eventual ensnarement by the US government.
Great word.
Yeah,
Ensnarement.
that's a good word, isn't
done.
it? Consider yourself ensnared by the US government. And it mixes first-person narrative from Mr. Bout himself, interviews from those involved, journalists, people in law enforcement, and also his family members.
Yeah, his wife particularly.
Too. Yeah, his wife and brother are both in it. And also, bizarrely, 20 years worth of footage.
Of home movie footage.
Shot by him, but of his criminal career. Why? Yeah. But that actually leads on to the central question of the film about certainly the level of his guilt. And he certainly doesn't believe...
the level of his naivety.
Yeah, because he doesn't believe at any stage that he's guilty. Hence, he filmed everything he did. And that is actually, and it's obviously inevitably a very interesting story, all about that.
Okay, so we heard quite upfront that it is mostly made up of his own home video footage, which is really true. And that is one thing that is really good about this film. I particularly enjoyed that, more so because I was flabbergasted at the amount of him doing business deals with African arms dealers, you know, and things like that, and recipients of his trade. Just quite happily being filmed, you know, him shaking hands, sharing a cigar, all that kind of stuff. Everything that is possibly incriminating about the job he does, he's provided the footage for, so he's basically got himself in jail.
Well, do you know what it reminded me of? There's an amazing moment in The Wire where Stringer Bell, played by Idris Elba, says to one of his underlings as they're having a meeting of sort of their board of drug dealers, and he's taking notes, and he says, "Are you taking notes on a criminal conspiracy?" It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Why are you recording this, you idiot? But it leads on to an interesting question, and this is the best thing about the film. He doesn't believe he's guilty.
No.
He's naive, because morally, you sell guns to people, you are in the wrong. But also there's questions about international law, about entrapment by the US government, that kind of thing, whether he is just a scapegoat for a larger problem as well, and a lot of the real criminals have been swept under the rug. I certainly think he's a naive man, but I also think he's a bad man.
But he's also brought in his whole inner circle are either really naive or thought they were very strategic in thinking that he is this lovely saint guy. But he, intercut in all this footage is, bits of content of journalists justifying why he is guilty.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it a really fascinating piece of evidence to watch and to see this story unfold. However, there are problems in it. Okay, so we've hinted that there are problems with this film. In fact, there are a lot of problems with this film, I thought. I fell asleep, being one. I fast forwarded, being two. This is not something that theatrically will keep you awake during the cinema. I don't think that this is an experience that you'll want to necessarily see on the big screen for any reason. It's maybe a Channel 4 documentary.
There's nothing cinematic about it, is it, whatsoever? I did actually manage to stick it out through the whole thing. And it is It's interesting because it's the story of a global arms dealer. That is inevitably going to be interesting.
The backbone of it is really interesting. You think you're buying into an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Its execution is not that great. Watching some SD 90s home videos and hearing translation after translation and the odd dodgy Russian English accent to try and explain this quite complex story where you just don't believe that this guy is in any way innocent.
Yeah.
You've already made up your mind. It just doesn't work for some reason. It's really hard to put your finger on why.
Well, I actually think there's too much going on visually as well. The way they cut it, I think, to try and make it more interesting is they drop in stills of the person who's talking at that moment. Then there's the archive footage. Then there's people sitting in what looks like an interrogation room giving an interview. There's just too much going on.
Yeah.
It's an interesting story.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, tell it all through the archive footage with a voiceover, or tell it all with the narrative and interviews, whatever you want to do. I don't know how a story about how a global weapons dealer can become boring, but they manage it.
They manage it. So you've heard the good and the bad about the notorious Mr. Bout, and I'm sorry if I keep laughing at his name, but it is quite funny, and he's quite a funny character to watch as well. But what's great about this film is, in a nutshell, is that it's such an interesting story, or it should be. And what's bad about it is that the way it's portrayed to us is actually not that great. So for me, it actually is a bit of a 2.5-star film.
Yeah, I think 2.5 stars.
Yeah.
Sounds fair, yeah.
Yeah, it's a solid film to some respect, but it really lets itself down in the way that it's edited. So, guys, if you're interested in learning about an international arms dealer who got his comeuppance, then by all means go and check this one out. But it's going to be for a bespoke, niche set of audience members who will forgive the way it's been shot, basically.
I mean, it's not really anything to get excited about.
On occasion, his aircraft carry guns for people who use them to commit human rights abuses.
So that is the real review of the Notorious Mr. Bout. But did we get it right?
Give us a shoot with a comment below. You can get in touch at The Real Film Show on Twitter, or if you're an old-fashioned type like me, even jump on the Facebook page. But also, make sure you get yourself down to The Real Deal on film.com, and you can see all our other lovely content.
Thanks
See ya.
for watching.